Some guys don't care about their health. They just want the results. Okay, there's coaches for that. We'll give you results. And well, you do a little research. You also see that they have some fatalities in their corner. Vigorous Steve here. Let's discuss the animosity between coaches, which seems to be getting more and more and more nowadays. And I honestly don't understand why, and I don't really want to understand. But I think I'm in a position where I can at least explain why that is. And it basically boils down to three things: ego, confirmation bias, and failing to understand why another coach might practice particular methods regarding pharmacology or diet strategies or training methodologies, right? Everybody is highly specialized. And as they get more specialized, the methods of putting them into practice start to diverge. And now you get so far apart that both parties don't really understand why you're doing this particular training strategy and why you're doing this particular diet strategy, because they don't match. So let's address this, because I know some of you are getting more and more and more confused nowadays on who to listen to, who to follow, who to hire as a coach. No, I'm not available for coaching right now. I'm flooded, guys. So this is not a pitch that I want to get more clients, which some of this animosity stems from also, which I honestly don't think is needed, is warranted, because there's only so many coaches, right? It takes a couple of years or maybe even a decade or two before you're in a position to actually coach properly. And there's hundreds of thousands or millions of potential clients out there that in the end are going to oversaturate it, however many coaches are out there anyway. So it's not like we're all struggling for clients. If anything, there's a surplus of clients and not enough good qualified coaches. Now, let's start with this diverging direction that most coaches undergo over their career, and then ending up at a point where they don't really understand what the other one is doing. Plus, they also don't put the time in required to understand what another coach is doing. Also not possible, because let's say you're a coach, you're not going to hire another coach to get to his information. Plus, you're going to be too busy designing your own philosophy regarding everything that's involved with bodybuilding. And now you really don't have the time nor the access to another coach to really understand why they do a particular practice. So look at it this way. It takes years, decades before you're qualified to give advice to somebody else. Right? Bodybuilding is very diverse. There's a million different things that it encompasses. And you need to have a lot of experience with all these different things that bodybuilding encompasses before you can actively teach that to somebody else and get paid for it, right? Coaching as a service, you're guiding somebody else through this journey that is bodybuilding or a fitness or whatever, right, that you're getting coached for. Now, the coach has a starting point, that being their own body. So first they have to get some familiarity with their own body regarding training, regarding supplementation, regarding digestion, regarding nutrition, regarding pharmacology. And then, well, there's 1,000 different levels to pharmacology, especially when you consider all the drug interactions that need to take place to be an astronomically large bodybuilder. So there's phases that the coach needs to go through before he can teach that to somebody else. And a lot of this experimentation, trying 100 different food sources, trying 100 different performance-enhancing drugs, 100 different machines and exercises at the gym, that takes some time. And then maybe out of the hundreds, whatever the category falls into, they really like 10 of them, right? So 10 of this, 10 of that, 10 of that. You put that together, now you have a bodybuilder that's very good with its own body, familiar with their own body to get results, and knows what worked for him or her, but also knows what didn't work for him or her. So out of the thousands to millions to billions of infinitely complex combinations that you can have in bodybuilding, that's why it's so much fun to figure out which of all the things that we can choose from actually works for you as an individual. And guidance sometimes is required for that in the form of coaching. So let's say this soon-to-be coach has figured that out for herself or himself. Now they need to be able to translate that to somebody else. And that's where the confirmation bias comes into play, because the best results you're going to get with clients are the clients which have a similar response to your own. So you see that some clients or some coaches are highly specialized regarding a particular steroid combinations, right? And there's a million other coaches with their all unique methodologies regarding the combination of particular performance-enhancing drugs. But the starting point is always themselves. And then they're led down a path where they slowly, or other people start to gravitate to this particular practice, which creates confirmation bias. My protocol is the best because it works for all these people that I'm helping. But it doesn't work for the people that didn't contact you because they might have experimented with that particular practice. It didn't work, so they didn't contact you. Or they contacted you, you put them in this protocol, but they dropped off because it didn't work. They didn't get results and they didn't extend their coaching membership. They didn't pay you for another term to continue with coaching because they didn't get the results they were after. So with the long-term clients that gravitate to you as a coach, you get some sort of confirmation bias. And it's very difficult to understand this from another coach, which has a completely diverging direction, right, regarding their own pharmacology, diet strategies, and training methodologies, because they're no longer similar. They're diverging. They're both leading down the same path of bodybuilding, fitness, or everything else that we do with performance-enhancing drugs, but they're diverging over time. And in that sense, it's no different from gaming. I'm sure the guys that are a little bit older remember a period in time where it was Nintendo versus Sega, and then Nintendo bought Sega, so that issue was off the table. And nowadays it's Xbox versus PlayStation. The guys that play Xbox are a little bit against the PlayStation, and the PlayStation is a little bit against Xbox. They both have console-specific unique titles, so you can't play specific games that are PlayStation titles on the Xbox and vice versa. Same thing with coaches. This particular coach has some coach-specific knowledge that works for a certain group of people but doesn't work for everybody. And the next coach has this as well. Very specific knowledge that was extrapolated from his own experience with his own body, and then getting confirmation bias with all the people that he or her has helped over the last couple of years that responded well to that particular practice. So this guy might be doing insulin, and this guy might be doing IGF-1, right? We have a little bit of a discrepancy here. Some guys really like the Lantus. Some guys really like the IGF-1, and they can't see opposing signs, right? You shouldn't use insulin because it's so dangerous. Oh, you shouldn't use IGF-1 because it makes you look so old, right? And then it causes organ growth everywhere. And they'll find reasons why the other side is wrong, and why the other side shouldn't do particular practices based from their own confirmation bias and their own standpoint, based on their personal experience and the clients that gravitated towards them with this, because they have this specific, very specific knowledge. Huge diversion for coaches that exactly want to reach the same goal with their clients is that the clients get their dream physique. And hopefully, with a little bit of a caveat, they reach their dream physique healthily, right? Some coaches care about that a little bit more than others. And some coaches care about that so much that the client might not even reach their dream physique because there's so many handicaps that the coach will say, listen, I know you want to look like a freak, but I also want to keep you healthy, right? So every coach is then highly specialized in a particular area, which originally stems from their own body. Now, again, this divergence between coaches is where the issue lies, because a lot of these coaches, they're not being coached by somebody else. Some coaches are coached by another coach, but they still gravitate in the same direction. So they all become highly specialized with whatever practices they're doing. And nobody really gets invested into what other coaches are doing also, because what coaches are doing is behind the paywall. And it's very difficult to really understand what a coach does behind the paywall, being the service that people have to pay for, when you don't have access to that. So what I see lately a lot is that clients are coming forward and they were not happy with a particular service, right? Now, this is a client that did not have a good experience with one coach and might have a much better experience with another coach, right? So they did not extend. They had, they did not get their money worth and they're a little bit upset. So that's one bad review. Probably one bad review out of hundreds or thousands, or maybe the only bad review that ever came to the surface. All the good reviews are still with that coach. All the good reviews are sometimes publicly known, sometimes not, right? Let's say you're a coach and you specialize on mental health. You can do a before and after picture of a mental health. You can do a very easy before and after picture is, of course, the physique looks kind of average. And then under guidance of the coach, the physiques look phenomenal. Now, I always propose that there should be a third picture of the blood work before and after, because maybe when the physique was not looking so phenomenal, the blood work was very, very good. And then when the physique is looking phenomenal, the blood work is looking horrendous or abysmal or whatever word you want to attach to that. Right? So that's a little bit of a hidden layer that you as the potential client and the end consumer always needs to take into consideration if you care about health. Some guys don't care about their health. They just want the results. Okay, there's coaches for that. Well, we'll give you results. And you do a little bit of research. You also see that they have some fatalities in their corner, right? Some hospitalizations. So all these things you have to keep into consideration if you are a client and you're actively shopping for coaches. Look a little bit into the track history. And just because a coach is not public about who they're coaching doesn't mean they don't have good results with their clients, because results you can't always show in a before and after picture. And well, let's be honest, most of my clients would prefer not to be known that they're working with me for whatever personal reason that they have. So I've always separated myself that I don't do the before and after pictures. And well, the influx of coaching requests is still ongoing, even though I have no before and after pictures on my Instagram. So, right, everybody's a little bit differently specialized that way. What I think a lot of people, or at least a lot of coaches, need to understand is that there's a reason why another coach might go down a direction of a particular practice. If that practice is not getting anybody hospitalized, nobody's dying, from what it appears that most of these clients are getting results, or generally this particular coach has a good review in the fitness industry from people he's worked with or people he's interacted with. And well, the extra bonus point would be to put out content that can help the fitness industry, people that are not clients, right? So you always have to look a little bit at the total picture. And it's very easy to write somebody off. It's the same as what we do in bodybuilding. Oh, he's got shit arms. And he's not a bodybuilder, he's got shit arms. For example, you might have a great back, great legs, can pull a vacuum, great conditioning, but we immediately gravitate to the flaw. To the flaw. It's a little bit discouraging, to be honest. It's very negative sometimes, this fitness industry. And I love bodybuilding, but there's so much negativity involved, which is a lot different than constructive criticism. So you can formulate it in a different way. I like this coach. These practices are good. Maybe you're not too familiar with them, but at least you highlight the accomplishments or what you feel are accomplishment and the unique characteristics of this coach before you pass judgment and show criticism. Because if this coach was not knowing what he was doing, he would not have clients that stay long term. And this is also a thing you can look into. If there's a coach out there that has been working with athletes for years and years and years and years, he obviously knows what he's doing. Otherwise, his client would have moved on. It's very simple. If you can't get results with clients, all your clients are going to move on. But if you're a coach that worked with guys for years, 5 years, 10 years, and these guys will never leave because you get them great results and they feel comfortable with you, that's also a sign that this coach is, however weird particular practice might seem, is getting results and has a loyal following of the people that he's been working with, because it clearly works. Otherwise, they would have moved on, right? In the end, the customer is still king and they can spend their money wherever they want. Let's address the ego, which is a huge issue. It's a huge issue in this fitness industry. It also stems from confirmation bias, right? You see that with the growth of a YouTube channel or an Instagram following, or particular accolades that clients start to get at the amateur ranks, IFBB pro shows, the Mr. Olympia, is that the ego gets inflated a little bit. And it gets more and more and more, depending on the accolades, the followers, the subscribers, the income, whatever, right? For whatever reason, the ego gets inflated. And then you create a little bit of a wall between, or a separation between the other coaches. My accomplishments are so much better than the next guy. But it doesn't mean that the next guy doesn't have value. Right? Maybe the next guy has never really coached a lot of people, but still contributes actively to the fitness industry and brings a lot of new information that nobody ever has heard about publicly. So instead of helping 50 guys directly through coaching, maybe you can help 100, 200, thousands, 100,000 people with a YouTube channel or an Instagram account. The hard part with that is staying humble. Because again, the confirmation bias, the fans, the people who are getting results with whatever you're producing, are going to thank you for it. Obviously, the likes and the positive comments and the shout outs and getting recognized outside. And then over time, due to the influx of positive messages and actively deleting the negative one, which I completely understand and do the same, this confirmation bias, some guys get a huge inflated ego because of it. And now they think they're God's gift to the fitness industry. They're almost acting like a messiah. Everything I say is right, and whatever somebody else says is wrong. And it's funny to me, honestly, because if you're in a position to teach, you should stay humble because you have a lot of responsibility. Now, people are actively listening and people are actively following your advice. So you better make sure that whatever you're trying to portray and educate and the information that you transition from you to the next guy, right, being the audience or somebody that's your client, should be done so under a caring fashion. Not like you have to listen to me because I'm the coach and I know what I'm doing. I have 20 years of experience and I used to be an IFBB pro and my will is God and you just follow my directions. No. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. If you take somebody's money, you now have it's your duty, it's your obligation to not only give this client the most value for their money, but also guide them through this bodybuilding journey. And with that comes a little bit of knowledge transfer, right? Now, again, not all coaches understand this. Not all clients require this of the coach. So there are some coaches out there who never transfer knowledge, never explain why they're upholding particular practices, and the client doesn't care, right? Again, confirmation bias, and a coach that actively tries to teach, almost like a mentorship or traineeship, doesn't agree with what this other coach is doing. I think when you're a coach, if you care about your reputation, if you care about, if you really care about helping people, there's no need for negativity where you're actively attacking somebody without any real substitute simply because you don't understand why a particular coach is doing particular practices. Right? You lack the fundamental understanding of why a certain thing is the way it is because you have not walked the same path and you have not coached the same clients that highly benefit from working a different path as your own. I had a lot of philosophy and a lot of mindset and things to consider in this video. Food for thought. I think the coaches that are positive, the ones that I emulate, the John Meadows, the Dr. Scott Stevenson, right? Chris Aceto. Well, Chris Aceto sometimes has a little bit something to say, but most of the top level coaches that are highly known and highly respected, they don't feel the need to call out somebody else because they're very comfortable in their own shoes. They have the results, but yet they stay humble because they understand that they're, well, vicariously living through their clients. That's what we're all doing, right? We're vicariously living through our clients, which might have a much better physique, much better genetic response to drugs than the coaches has. And this is how we kind of get to live the bodybuilding dream, even though the physique of us, the coach, is not that impressive or not that phenomenal, or doesn't have the same genetic response to drugs as some of the clients that we actively try to get to the top level. Right? So we get to vicariously live through them. And I think a lot of the coaches that are humble, that are settled, that get results, they understand this, and they understood this a long time ago. And it's mostly these new coaches that are not established, that are still fighting for clients, that don't have so much clients, that don't have so much revenue, that feel the need to call another coach out and say that he's completely wrong, when in reality, that coach is probably right 99% of the time. And there might be one thing that you don't agree with, but you can highlight the things that you do agree with. This is a different mindset. I hope some of you can adopt this. If you don't want to adopt it, let me know in the comment section. It might be the last comment that you make, because again, I try to keep it positive. And this negativity, it's not benefiting me, it's not benefiting you. But there's now a lot of other YouTube channels where you can vent your negativity. Maybe you feel more comfortable there. I'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for the most comprehensive guide to bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find the ebooks on my website at vigoroussteve.com/shop. Personalized advice always available through consultations. I'm not accepting any new coaching clients. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe 2022, depending on who's staying with me right now. And again, I have clients that stay with me for years, even decades. So when spots open up, I will announce it publicly. But until that time, there will be no coaching spots available. I am going to be working with a couple deputy coaches, which I will put on my website in the near future. And instead of working with yours truly, you'll be working with a guy that is familiar with all of my coaching practices and perhaps entertains a couple additional ideas that are uniquely to that coach on top of it, and guys that I will vouch for, right? So those will be alternative coaches that you can consider in the future. Follow me on Instagram at Vigorous Steve. Front double bicep for the Vigorous crew. Still fits on the camera, but at one point these cannons will be a little bit more impressive, hopefully, going forward. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video.